I think we are towards the bottom of page Gimel, and the line begins, Shebo Mekecho Elaki V'Bchinas Yesh Dafka. For 8 lines from the bottom. Yeah? Confirmed?
I mean, we for sure got up to there.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay, that's what I hoped. Okay, and this entire time, for the entire page and even before that, we are learning to be able to distinguish and to understand the difference between the Nefesh Olekis and Nefesh Abahamis. Nefesh Arufnis and Nefesh Ativis. Nefesh, and essentially the Ruach, what's called Ruach HaOdom and Ruach HaBhema. And we are seeing from this discussion that there could be a very involved seichel, understanding in all kinds of different chokhmas, chokhmas hateva, chokhmas arfua, chokhmas atchuna, and all kinds of different things, and yet it is in the category of Ruach HaBhema. It does not qualify, it does not contain what we would call the human spirit. Even though, of course, only the human being is able to do that. Animals do not have that ability, that seichel. But within the human being, this is the seichel bahami. Which is really amazing, you would think, It's real seichel, understanding tava, refuah, and so forth. In what way is it Ruach HaBhema? In what way is it akin to a Bhema? Akin means in what way is it similar to a Bhema? I call it Ruach HaBhema. As I mentioned many times, the principal difference between Odom and Behema is that Behema relates and is interested to that which it can experience. Its little world. It could be a big world. But it knows this world. How does it know that this world exists? Because it tastes it, it feels it, it can experience it. It knows things by virtue of the fact that it is affected by them. Nefesh ha'sichlis, nefesh ha'odom, ha'elo l'maylo. That nefesh is drawn to know things as they are in absolute truth. A truth because it's true, not because it affects me.
I thought that is the seichel.
What?
I thought that is the seichel of the Nefesh HaBahamis.
What?
Nefesh HaSichlis. Sounds like we're differentiating between the seichel of the Nefesh HaBahamis and the Nefesh HaSichlis.
No. Nefesh HaSichlis is the seichel, the highest element of Nefesh HaBahamis.
Highest element of the seichel?
Of the Nefesh HaBahamis.
Oh, so generally seichel of the Nefesh HaBahamis?
Normally Nefesh HaBahamis is midas, it's not even seichel.
Right.
But Nefesh HaBahamis also has seichel.
Okay.
That's called Nefesh HaSichlis.
The highest element of the seichel, or the whole seichel?
The highest element of the Nefesh HaBahamis.
Which is the whole seichel.
The whole seichel, the seichel of Nefesh HaBahamis. That's called also Nefesh HaSichlis.
Okay. Okay. Because last time we were saying that the limit of the seichel of the nefesh habahamis is to understand the physical by itself without its significance.
Yeah, that's what Nefesh Habahamis said. That's the limit of Nefesh Habahamis. Said understand those things that it experiences. And seichel is the same thing. Those things that the seichel can demonstrate and explains its world.
So we lost. Can you explain again, please?
Okay, where are you lost?
It sounds like, I think it says here maybe. Okay, I can't see here. I see my notes. I mean, maybe I don't know if I wrote it.
Okay.
Wrote that the limit of the seichel of the nefesh habahamis is to understand the physical in and of themselves, not their significance. The limit meaning that's the seichel of the nefesh habahamis can only understand the physical by itself. But isn't the seichel of the nefesh habahamis the nefesh hasichlis?
Yes.
Which understands, which is oila l'mayla?
No.
That would be the human. That's
No. Human, the ruach odom, not seichel odom. Ruach odom is eila l'mayla.
Ah, ruach adam, not seichel adam. What's the difference? Oh, that's the difference. Oh, the human spirit, not the human. Oh, wow. Ah. Okay.
The seichel acts in conformity with the ruach. Now, with that which it's interested, this is what it's going to understand. The ruach habehema is the yoes lamata, so it will understand things lamata. Ruach odom is el lamayla, so he will understand things lamayla.
You understand the significance?
How seichel is this significance element is how we can distinguish here between one seichel and another. What is the difference between how a human being understands world?
I just lost it. Can you start with that last sentence?
Significant, we'll come to it. Forget about what significance is. And this seems to be confusing you. Significance, this is the element in the seichel ha'odom that identifies it as seichel ha'odom.
Again, please. Sorry.
Okay, repeat what I said.
What?
Repeat what I said.
I couldn't catch it. I didn't catch it.
Significance is that element in the seichel that identifies the seichel as seichel ha'odom.
Significant in the seichel. Is that element which identifies it as the seichel of others? Is that, did I say it correctly?
Yeah. Okay. If it's so difficult, I'll make it much more accessible.
Okay.
Going back to the proverbial example, a human being, you enter into a chasana hall, and a cat enters with you to the chasana hall. What do you observe? What does the cat observe?
He observes food, I observe the simcha.
What?
He observes food, I observe the simcha.
How do you observe the simcha?
Because the atmosphere.
Because of the atmosphere, the air, because of the food.
Oh, what?
How do you observe the simcha?
Everything together. I see it as all one thing.
But you see food also.
Of course.
Okay, and you see the food, and the animal sees the food. Except you look at the food and look for the significance of it.
Right.
Why is the food there? The animal looks at the food and sees how tasty it is, how accessible it is. That's all.
Okay.
So the seichel ha'odom looks for the significance. That's where what significance comes in. He's not interested in the physicality itself. He says, what is it about? Why is it there? No, Nefesh HaSichlis is part of the Seichel of Nefesh HaBahamis.
How is the one that understands that?
What?
He's the one that understands it.
Okay. Let's take this example of the Simcha a step further. You come into a hall, and there is food, and same as will happen to the cat. The cat sees only the food. The human being sees the food, but then he wants to know, what is this food here about? Why is it served? Right? Oh, it's a chasana. Very nice. He sits down, takes a plate of food, and sits down to eat. What does he have in mind when he eats his food? Why does he have in mind when he sits down by the table? He wants to participate in the simcha, or he wants to eat the food. It's true, it's both, because while he's a human being, he's also, he also has an advantage. But essentially, what is the human element? Participating in the simcha. So he may know that it's a simcha, but the fact that this is what he's participating in, that's the human element. The behemoth also knows it's a simcha, knows the food is there inside the simcha. But what does he really experience when he eats the food? It's good food. It depends on the person.
This human element is the godly soul.
This is right. This is something which is the human element. This he gets from as a result of the godly soul or a final element. Nefesh HaBahamis by Yidden, as the Alter Rebbe says, it's from Klippas Noiga. It's not kulera. So it has a godly element in it. But Matzah, the Behem element, he is drawn to the bottom, even though he understands. Because he also has seichel, but the seichel is a seichel that is limited to understand that which has to do with the teva in Yoni. And certainly doesn't change his... Are you with me?
Not 100%.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with Nefesh HaKes,
Hmm?
right? It has nothing to do with Nefesh HaKes. It's just the Nefesh HaKes.
Well, I'll tell you. Participating in the simcha, you mean?
I understand the seichel, so I understand that. I'm saying this is the seichel is from the Nefesh HaKes. Or Nefesh HaKes.
If a person goes to a simcha, he participates in the simcha, and he is exclusively interested in the simcha, in the fact that this is simcha shel mitzvah, that is from Nefesh HaKes.
What about if he's just gonna have a good time for dancing?
What?
So let's say if he's just gonna go just to have a good time for the dancing. I don't know.
I'm saying, if it's a good time, without that, this is a Nefesh HaBahamis. This is experiential.
And just for the food is Nefesh HaKes, right?
That's what the food is akin to the behemoth. That's what the cat is there for.
It's like the Nefesh HaBahamis has also the good element of it, which that's like purely human.
Nefesh HaBahamis also has the good elements. That means that he can participate in the simcha, but not, like we said, l'shem shamayim, because it's a simcha shel mitzvah. There is a human element here. Simcha, or a friend, he's rejoicing with his friend, in honesty. So that's also a human element. This is what the Alter Rebbe says at the end of Perek Aleph, that midas teva shebekol v'kol Yisrael, boi me'mena, also come from Nefesh HaBahamis. What are midas tevas? Rachmonim, Gimel Chasodim. rejoicing in a friend's joy and truly rejoicing in a friend's joy. That's also a part of Nefesh Abamis, but it's the Noiga element, the godly element in Nefesh Abamis.
That's clear.
So the primary difference, this is what we point, primary difference, if we're going to, differentiate them in a gross way, even though in Nefesh Abamis also has an element of toiv, but if we differentiate it in a gross way, Nefesh Ruach HaOdam, Ruach HaBehema, Nefesh HaElokis, Nefesh Abamis, is that Nefesh HaElokis, Ruach HaOdam seeks to relate to the source of things. What is the significance of it? What is it about? Because why? Because that is the truth. This is what gives it a real presence. Not the food. It's what brought the food there. Why is the food there? Why are you invited? What is going on? There's a human truth in this. Was the behemoth not interested in the truth? It's interested in what it gets. And in that respect, it can have seichel, and I can understand intricate mathematical things. But why is it interested in mathematics? Why is it intrigued by all the various things that we have mentioned, right? Cheshbon and Teva, Refu, and all. Why does it relate to it? Because it's something which it has a direct relation to. It projects things on itself. It projects things from its own experience, not from a from a source, from a godly perspective. A person has $1 million. It's a lot of money. A person bought a lottery ticket, and he hopes to win, and he begins to project and imagine that he won. And as the imagination propels itself, he immediately starts thinking, okay, I won, so what am I going to do? The first thing. And there are all kinds of different thoughts that come to a person's mind. And the Gemara says, "V'shleisho dvorim odom nitfas." A person can be identified in 3 moments, three things. You heard about this? V'koisei, v'kaisei, or v'kisei. Koisei means if he drank, said l'chaim, 2 times more than normal, and he is acting, so to speak, openly, completely naturally, you can tell the real person. V'kaisei, when he gets angry, how does a person act when he gets angry? He's also kind of a loss, and you can tell the real person. Or v'kisei, when he touches his pocket. How does he act when it has to do with his money? So he is projecting, he is now going to be wealthy, he's going to have a lot of money. And his mind begins to kind of twirl off, off the chart. Okay? So there is a person who said, okay, so he imagines he already has his Lexus. And he's flying in first class. And to some, or he's showing off to some friends, whatever it is, something like that. Then there's another person who is also, his mind is taking off. He says, I'm going to buy a new building for my shul. I'm going to fix up the yeshiva. I'm going to fix up the Beit HaSemin, whatever it is. All kinds of different things. But his mind is in a totally different arena. What's the difference between these two?
One thing about himself, one thing about others.
Right. What is the fundamental difference?
One is looking at it from an animalistic perspective, not really human.
So it's a different, it's not just different things. It's not things. One is thinking in terms of what he can do in terms of tzedakah. He's not thinking in terms of things. He's completely in a different world. He's rising up to a different world. This one is thinking in his world, in the physical world. But good things, if I'm going on vacation, I'm going to take my friends along. I'm going to pay for the vacation. But it's still in the same vein, essentially. It's still basically in the same arena,
Isn't that both, you would think?
Huh?
Isn't that like a little of both?
No. It's basically to enhance his enjoyment. It's nothing to do with. It's not a roof music thing.
Okay. I can say it like that.
It's not a roof music thing.
Yeah, but still, the guy's building, the guy wants to build his own shul, right? So it's for himself also.
It depends. It's true. If he's building a shul in order to enhance his covet, yes. That's why it has to be very carefully judged. He has to judge for himself very carefully. There was a story of a Yid who gave enormous amount of tzedakah. And he was a chassid, and he was concerned that his Yetzer Hara, his Nefesh Abamis, is also benefiting from his tzedakah. So he went to the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe said, look, whatever you're thinking, but the Aniyim who got the money, for them this is definitely real. So from that respect, it's definitely real. There was a Yid that the Mittel Rebbe instructed all his chassidim that when they travel back and forth from the Bavitch, from the Rebbe back home, and from home to during these travels, they should stop in various shtetl, various towns, and they should chazak chassidus. There was one particular Yid who was especially gifted in chazak chassidus. And he did this shlichus very, very diligently, and people enjoyed his chassidus. They would come to town. Oh, Rabbi Chatzkel is here. I don't know if his name was Chatzkel. He was here. Oh, people would gather and give him compliment, and he felt good about his chassidus. So he came to the Mittel Rebbe and he says, "The Rebbe, I can't do it anymore. This is destroying my spiritual life. Huh?
Why?
Because he's becoming involved in, he's losing his spiritual perspective to this thing, and he can't do it altruistically because he knows it's going to be appreciated. What altruistic mean? Altruistic means honestly, l'shem shamayim. So the Mittel Rebbe said to him, this is a famous quote. I'll say it in Yiddish and then I'll translate. The Rebbe said to him, "Atzibel azof will dir werden, aber chsidem soll sich hassen." You can become an onion, but you should continue as a chsidus. What's an onion? An onion looks very nice outside, but when you bite it, it's sharp. It's sharp. It bites you back. A person is so to speak tortured inside because whatever bothers him, it's like a tzibel. And he can't really enjoy himself internally because he feels the bitterness of a tzibel. As the Rebbe says, so when for the tzibel of a chsidus osachas. In other words, do what you need to do, that your personal avodah is notwithstanding. There was a story in the Baal Shem Tov.
The story you just said was like, really?
What?
The story you said about the tzibur.
Yeah. Story from the Baal Shem Tov. When the Baal Shem Tov, this was a kind of many occasions that happened where a certain town in those days even lived in diaspora, in small little villages. And in these villages, there weren't great scholars. Many times there was not even a rov. Anybody who should give them spiritual guidance. And they were very simple. They were from a Yidden, but they were so simple that they would become very coarse and very magushin. Wagon drivers, cobblers, they didn't have and then they would become, so to speak, very magushim, very low. And there was a lot of cases where there was kitrugim. You know what kitrug is? There was a kitrug in a certain village, in a certain town. And this kitrug was very serious. And Baal Shem Tov, of course, sensed it. And he sensed that this town was in danger of being destroyed. So Baal Shem Tov put all his koiches to save this town. When Baal Shem Tov found out about it and he started working, this was after that the decree in Bezer Shel Maila had already been issued. So Bezer Shel Maila already decided that this town has to be eliminated. And Baal Shem Tov stood up and he worked very hard to be mevatel that decree. And he succeeded. He was mevatel that decree. But then, because he stood up against the Bezer Shel Maila, he himself was taken to task. And it was decreed that he will lose all his Elam Haba. Shem Tov, to save this town, has sacrificed his Elam Haba. No Elam Haba. So he found out that he has no Elam Haba. Shem Tov said, Great. Now I can really serve Hashem. Completely, truthfully. Without even expecting any kind of reward. Not even, I was told already, Yom HaBa is out. This is Nefesh HaOdam. Ruach HaOdam. The way the Rambam expresses it, the Rambam always calls a person who acts according to Seichel, like a human being, he calls a Chocham. And also Rambam is a Chocham. HaChocham, the Rambam says, does Torah mitzvahs and serve Hashem not for any reasons, but oisa ho'emes mipnei shehu emes. He does the truth just because it's the truth, not for any expectation of reward or anything like that. It's Lashon Rambam. It's very much Meshuvah. That type of purity is not Sayba Nefesh HaBamis. It's out of its realm. It can relate to things in that truthful way. Again, I made a mistake. Honey, I didn't mean 5. It means okay.
Also good in the.
Huh?
There's also the good part of the Nefesh HaBamis.
There is good part, but this doesn't compare to this, to what Nefesh HaOdam is.
No, that is the Nefesh HaBamis. The good part that could be elevated.
It can be elevated, but until it's elevated, it's in Klippas Neg, it's Klippa. Okay, so let's go inside. Okay, so actually I want to start just a line above what I pointed before. Hare, okay, we have the line Hare, it's 9 lines from the bottom. Hare, whatever the chokhmah, the seichel of the Nefesh HaBamis is able to relate to and to understand and to get involved in, it is a haskolohi begashmi hadover. The haskolohi is in the gashmius of the thing. With me, the gashmius, something very tangible, very clearly definable. ובהטבע שהוטבע בנברואים שנזהבו. And he's talking about the nature that was imprinted in the Nivroim, that was created, after they were created. In other words, as the Teva functions already in the existent nature. Anything you don't understand, please stop me, okay? The nature as it was already established. V'hainu, but in other words, it means Masher bo mikeh holeki, that which came from the koyach haleki, bebechinas yesh dafka. Bebechinas yesh dafka, which means the nefesh habamis can only relate to the yesh element of that creation. Bebechinas yesh. Yesh means something which can be readily experienced. Let us take an example of light. Light is not tangible with your hand physically. light is really kind of in Gashmi's the world, that's a Ruchni. Light is the most Ruchni of all the Gashmis. It's intangible. How does the Nefesh Habamis relate to light? The Habamis relates to light as a function, and it makes me see Gashmis. What's light? It makes it possible to see the Gashmis. Light per se, what is light today? That it doesn't have any idea. What is the concept of light? Do you understand? Why did Hashem, what is the significance that Hashem created light in the world, per se? He knows only from his perspective. That light makes it possible for me to see my way around. So that's taking the Gashmi use of the light. Light, whenever we mention light, immediately I want to use the opportunity to elaborate on it because it's a very, very fine thing and a very useful aspect in the world that helps us to understand a lot of things, the Ruchnis as well. The Seichel Hativi, the natural Seichel, and in these days, Seichel Hativi is something which has been very, very greatly developed by science and so forth. And light is certainly one of those things that have been very clearly identified, even to the extent that we're able to duplicate the eye. We have a camera, right? A camera functions on the basis of light. So that's the physical aspect of light. So we take light, which is as we observe it, as a human being observes it, something of exquisite, so to speak, something very fine, but we find in it the physical aspect. That there is an energy, there is a light, sun energy that emanates from the sun, and then it travels and it comes to the world, and it hits an object, and when this light hits an object, it reverberates, it deflects back, and then it hits the eye or hits the camera eye. And this is how we see. This is how the world understands light.
So in short, so the world sees light as what? Sees it as
a natural physical phenomenon. So the Nefesh Habamis will relate to light in that way. It's entirely physical, there's nothing to it, no spirituality. But, in truth, light gives us a totally different perspective. Light is not just to see the object, as we discussed many times. Light is not merely to see the object. Light gives us a perspective of the reality of the object. Like we point out that a person who is blind, Rahman, doesn't have a Yetzer Hara because he doesn't see the object as real. We've talked about it many times. I'm just going very briefly. And the nefesh ha'odam is very deeply affected by light. A person who is blind, Rahman al-Zan, is spotted from mitzvahs. Because he doesn't have a Yetzer Hara.
So why should he touch the mitzvahs if he doesn't have Yetzer Hara? So what's the connection with the What's the connection with the having Yetzer Hara to do mitzvahs?
Well, he can do mitzvahs. The chiyuv mitzvahs pertains only as an antidote to the Yetzer Hara. That's what the real chiyuv mitzvahs.
And antidote is a remedy?
I'm sorry?
And antidote is remedy? So
Yeah, counter.
No, so what does antidote mean? Remedy?
Mm-hmm. To counter.
This is our remedy for the
Huh? Sorry, say again?
This is a remedy for the Sahara?
They are not a remedy. They're to counter. What is the koyach of a mitzvah? You know, a mitzvah, like discussed many times, a mitzvah is to transform the world.
And to counter Hashem.
Transform. That's what the mitzvahs are, to transform, because, like you say, before the Torah was given, there was also Torah mitzvahs. But they didn't have the koyach to transform the world. It was just what people did because of their own seichel. The real koyach of the mitzvahs is because the mitzvahs gets involved in the gashmis, he can transform the world. Which mitzvahs get involved in the gashmis? Performed by a person who is involved in gashmis. But a person who is not involved in gashmis, so his mitzvahs are not real mitzvahs.
Since they don't count that face,
I'm sorry?
Since they don't really transform.
Yeah,
he
that's
can't
not-
really transform because he can't see what he's doing.
That's right.
Therefore he's touched
That's why he's spotted right. The potter is right. He can do the mitzvahs, but he's spotted in terms of here. Yeah. That's right. This is a lot possible, man. There are many halachas about it. Because
So what does this have to do with light?
light is what gives us the ability to see. So we see that the effect of light by us is much more significant than just a physical experience. The RASHAB says, no, that's all it is. It's just a ray of light that hits the object and you can see the object. Even a camera can see, big deal. But a human being sees and a camera seeing is totally different experiences, totally different worlds. And to explain that to a Nefesh Abam is not the easiest thing. Because the whole concept that this object, okay, follow this, that this object is real, not just it affects me, but it's real, that Nefesh Abam doesn't know what you're talking about. To him, an object is how it affects me. That's the reality of an object. I don't know what you're talking about. It's real. You understand? This you can see clearly as we're talking. Things surface clearly. You understand? You're with me? No? If I don't look at you, you'll float away someplace. All right. So this is the Tava Shahudbal in Hebron that he understands the nature as already established in Hebron. It was very Koyach Oliki that created them. But it's a yesh, and he only sees it from the yesh level. That which affects him. Now the Rebbe goes a step further. V'haskola v'hasogo b'hizhavos hayesh miyayin. The comprehension and the insight of the yesh coming from ayin. Because ultimately, the yesh has to come from ayin. Where is the yesh coming from? It has to come from ayin. Hainu, meaning to say, eich sheho ayin ho eliki mehave es hayesh. To understand the principle and the idea that the ayin eliki is mahava the yesh, makes the yesh into a yesh. Harei hu mi'at mize'oyer me'oid. It is very, very little, very, very small. Ma shehanefesh hativis atzmo taskil bozeh. What the nefesh hativis will understand of this thing. Atzma means by itself, without the assistance of the nefesh olekis. Nefesh hativis, to understand the inyan, that the fact that the yesh is coming from ayin oleki, and that the ayin oleki is really the force that which creates the yesh, that the nefesh hativis will understand very, very little. V'yav gam zois, and then even that little that he does understand, bo etzlo behagshoma ma'oid. It is understood by the nefesh hativis, behagshoma ma'oid, very coarsely, very tangibly. Hagshoma, tangibly. Geshem. To illustrate this lesson, this is very difficult really to understand. What is nefesh hativis understand? Yes, may I. But see, this is the great point that we mentioned before, all the way back forward and several times, that the nefesh habamis, despite the fact that it's nefesh habamis, but the nefesh habamis of a human being, and it has seichel. Seichel is a very phenomenal gift. Even though that he is limited to understanding Gashmis and so forth, but still Seichel per se is a very phenomenal thing. What is the phenomenal thing about Seichel? The phenomenal thing about Seichel is, just like we've discussed many times, that Seichel is able to know things that he does not touch, that it never touched, never came in contact with. Remember, many times we said that Seichel is like sight. Like sight, you see things and you're very clear about them, you're sure about them, even though you never touched it. If you never touched it, how can you be so sure that it's there? And what do you know about it? Touching it gives you the effect of its presence. What do you know about it if you don't touch? What you know about it when you don't touch it, you know about its true existence, how it exists unto itself, not how it affects you, but how it exists unto itself. That's what sight is. And Seichel has the same element, that you can know things without ever coming in contact with them. You got this point? Some of it? Okay, some of it.
So the reason why it's able to understand it, I guess. What's the reason why it's able to do that?
So since it has seichel, and seichel has this property.
What makes it able to do this? Just that.
This is the koyach haseichel. We'll discuss another time precisely what the koyach haseichel itself consists of. But this is the koyach haseichel, that it is able to understand things without being in contact with them. And since it is able to understand things without being in contact with them, this is how the Nefesh Habamis can even understand the union of Yesh Me'ayin. How? It never saw the Ayin. So truly, it cannot understand it like it understands a Gashmic thing. But logically, it can project it. It says, okay, there's a Yesh, there's a world. Where does the world come from? Sorry?
He doesn't fully understand.
He doesn't fully understand. That's what it says, mi'at miso'er. he doesn't understand it fully. But still, he has a sense. It's Yesh Mayayin. This question, where does the world come from? This is a seichelic question. An animal cannot ask this question. Not even ask the question. Because it doesn't have seichel. And a human being, Nefesh Abamis, the seichel of Nefesh Abamis can ask this question because he has seichel. The Nefesh Abamis is not very much intrigued by it. You know what intrigue means? It's not very interested in that. Because primarily it is interested to know the teva, what it can experience.
That's why it doesn't ask.
What?
That's why it doesn't need to know what exactly.
It doesn't, it's not really intrigued, it doesn't bother him so much. But nevertheless, it's a logical question, then it will ask. It can ask. And therefore it can already have a sense of Yesh Mayayin.
Wait, so does Nefesh Abamis also understand this?
Yes, Nefesh Abamis, the cycle, Nefesh Abamis understands this. But the amount of the sense of the ayin is very, very little. And even there, it understands it like it says, Behag Shoma Ma'oid. Very much Behag Shoma. Not in a refined spiritual manner.
Yep.
If you understand so far, I'll give you a little notch in this. What is Behag Shoma Ma'oid? Yes, you with me? What is Behag Shoma Ma'oid?
I thought you said that he could barely understand it.
You can better understand it, yes?
So how could...
He says,
so
Be'at
how
Mizra'ir.
could he feel it?
What says he feels it?
So what does Abba Paltiel mean?
Oh no, Hagshoma does not mean feeling. Hagshoma means geshem, physicality. It's not a ayin is a spiritual thing. It's beyond spirit. It's an intangible. And the Rebbe Abamis understand yesh miyayin in a very tangible way.
Even though it comes to him in a tangible way.
Right, he only makes it. He can only understand its tangible element.
So the Shoma means tangible.
Yeah, Shoma means tangible. Yeah, yes. Sir. I don't know. You probably think Hargosha or something like that.
Yeah.
No, not Gosha. Shoma.
Right.
Has to give us a little hand on this. When we understand that the world is Yesh Mayayin, there are two ways to relate to that whole concept. One way to relate this concept is the world is Yesh Mayayin, which means that what is the real truth? The ayin. That the fact that there is a mabushin, like a tangible world, this is just because on our level we can only sense the gashmis.
Again, so the yesh is what?
The yesh is not the real truth.
Sorry, I meant
The ayin is the real truth.
Uh-huh.
But really everything is ayin. The yesh comes from the ayin, so the real reality is the ayin. The real truth is the ayin.
But physical doesn't understand that.
That's right. So I'm saying there are two different ways of looking at this yesh me'ayin. There is a way to look at yesh me'ayin means yesh me'ayin means that the yesh is really bottled to the ayin. Because the real thing, the real truth is ayin.
Wait, so this is still in the first one?
Huh? This is the first time. I'm just explaining to him because he asked me.
No, I just didn't catch it. Wait, so the yesh is bottled.
Bottled to the ayin. The main thing is, the real thing is the ayin. That's one way of seeing it. Then there's another way of seeing it. That the Nefesh Abamis sees then understands the from Yesh Miyayin. So what does it see? Yesh, Hagashmius. And you know, this Gashmius is created by Ayin, which means it's created by such a koyach that is really immeasurable. But yet, it gives the Geshem, gives the Gashmius more of a substance. No, you're not catching it?
No.
Why does it give more substance?
Because the koyach that creates it is not limited.
So it just shows how great it is.
That's how great it is.
From the fact that it comes from such a
I'm sorry?
source.
I'm sorry?
From the fact that it comes from such a source, it must mean it's such a great thing.
That's right. That's right. The koyach that creates it is limitless.
Is that what the second one is?
That's why. That's why. There's the second one. So Nefesh Abamis, when he talks about Yesh Miyayin, he's talking about essentially the Yesh. But the Yesh, where does the Yesh come? Must come from Ayin. It's a real thing.
Does he understand that?
He understands it. Mizat Mizair, very little bit, but he can understand because after all, he has this question: where is the Yesh coming from? I understand.
Okay, and what's the second?
The other way is to say, on the contrary, that it's Yesh Mi'ayin, and the real thing is the Ayin, and the Yesh is insignificant. It's bottled to the Ayin.
The first way which the Yesh is not.
The other, Yesh is a real thing, but the Ayin creates it. It's a completely different thing. We mentioned many times in the past, I said that when Avraham Avinu, do we have this? Avraham Avinu, he was intrigued. He was bothered. What's going on in this world? And when Avraham Avinu figured out, he realized that it's not the sun, and it's not the moon, it's not the stars, and it's not the planets, not that. It's a koyach halaki that creates the world, and he holds the world up, and he makes everything rotate and everything. Okay, so Avraham Avinu came to that conclusion, to that understanding. What was the effect on him from that understanding? What was the effect? The effect on him was, so therefore we have to serve him. That's what the whole world is about. The Ayin. What would the effect be if any of his contemporaries would figure this out? Oh, it's great. Oh, this world is really great. Avraham, you're a big scholar, you're a big professor, we'll give you, a professorship in the college. You can teach now your theory. The theory of creation. And they'll give you a lot of money, they'll give you a lot of covet. Avraham says, that's not what I'm about. If you're going to thank Hashem and you're doing His mitzvahs, then I'm your teacher. If you want to give me covet, forget it. So the Nefesh Abamis understands, he's able to understand this. Yes, Mayayin, because he said, because he has seichel.
So the two ways that you explain how to look at Yesh Ayin, so is that how the Nefesh Hamas looks at that?
The second one.
Oh, fine, so the first one is Nefesh Hamas.
That's what the REBBE says. He understands, Vagam says, Bo Esa B'Hakshoma Ma'oid. The Yesh Mi'ayin comes in by Nefesh Abamis in a very tangible, Magushim way, in a coarse way. The Ayin creates it. Okay, so now I understand how the world is really here. To say, no, I'm interested in the Ayin, doesn't happen. Okay. I'm sorry?
No.
You wish what?
No.
You read that simple, huh?
No, I'm saying like I know this concept is much more complex than that. But is it? Yes, it is.
Okay, listen.
I know.
You understand that? Yeah, there's much more to understand, but these words are saying this. We learned a whole line today. We can celebrate. Okay, let's have a good evening.
Oh, and did you know that on the mention of the 04?